Good afternoon, and thank you for joining today's webinar, How to Make Your AASLD Foundation Award Application a Success. If you are not an AASLD member, this is a great time to join. Listed are just a few member benefits. The liver meeting is the premier meeting for those interested in the field of hepatology, and it is fast approaching. Don't miss these featured programs while you attend. You can help support the future leaders in hepatology by making a donation to the AASLD Foundation. Your donation of any amount is tax deductible. Visit aasldfnd.org/donate to learn more about the many ways to give back. We want to hear why hepatology is the cause you support. Share your story at aasldfnd.org/liverismycause. Please feel free to submit your questions during this webinar using the Q&A box at the top of your screen. All questions will be answered at the end. Now, I will turn it over to our presenter, Dr. Meena Bansal.
Great, thank you, Julia. Okay, just waiting to have control. There we go. Okay. Hi, everybody. I hope you're as excited as I am to get into all of these research awards. I am currently the chair of the AASLD Foundation Research Awards Committee. I'm a member of the AASLD Foundation Board of Trustees, and I am a past recipient of the Advanced Transplant Hepatology Award back in 2001. The AASLD Foundation's mission is really to invest in innovative hepatology research and in the people who study and treat liver disease. Our primary means of doing this is through the awards program, as we are the largest private supporter of hepatology research and training in the United States. So what awards will we be offering in 2018? AASLD Foundation currently offers a broad portfolio of research and career development awards for hepatologists at nearly every stage of their career. As you can see, the bulk of the scientific awards are for those anywhere from the postdoctoral level to junior faculty. This year, based on feedback from AASLD membership and the awards committee, we have added awards for mid-career investigators, and we'll go into those in more detail. Today, we will specifically be talking about the 7 awards kind of highlighted in yellow on this chart, which includes our research awards and our Career Development Award for Hepatology Fellows. After today's webinar, we hope that you will better understand the purpose of each of these awards, if there are any updates from previous years that you should be aware of, how do reviewers score your application, and tips to help you strengthen your application. During the webinar, we will go into more detail on changes to this year's awards portfolio, and there are actually quite a few. Key changes include an increased level of funding from $75,000 per year to $100,000 per year for the Clinical, Translational, and Outcomes Research Award, aka the CTORA. In addition, the Career Development Award in Liver Transplantation has moved under this umbrella, such that one CTORA is dedicated to transplant-related research. We have 2 new awards, the Pilot and the Bridge Award, which now also allow applications for mid-career investigators. And there's major changes to the Advanced Transplant Hepatology Award, which historically provided salary support for clinical training, but now will focus more on building the research career of the fellow. And finally, due to the support of a generous donor, really hot off the press, a special fund has been created to support funding specifically for research in autoimmune hepatitis. So given the increasing challenges in obtaining NIH funding, the committee and AASLD Foundation determined that the foundation really should offer some bridge awards. Though these are open to those trying to maintain their first R01 award, priority will be given to those who have a K award and are seeking their first R01. This is a one-year award of $100,000 for clinical, translational, or basic science research open to those at or below the associate professor level. We anticipate giving 2 awards, but please note that the anticipated number of awards on these slides are an estimate. The final number of applications funding could change based on the additional funding received between now and the selection of the 2018 awardees. If we raise more money, we can probably give more awards. The overall goal of the award is to support investigators who've recently submitted an NIH-R award or other federally funded equivalent awards like VA or DOD, and have received competitive scores on their proposal but were not funded. So this gives them the resources to gather additional preliminary data and strengthen their application for resubmission. Priority is to really preserve those investigators at highest risk of being lost to clinical duties or other research areas. Candidates must not have other federal funding or significant institutional bridge funding, which we're defining as greater than $25,000 except PI salary support. The new Pilot Research Award is to really fund innovative, high-risk, high-reward ideas. It can be clinical, translational, or basic research. $50,000 a year to support technical support and laboratory supplies. It's for 1 year, career level postdoc to associate professor, and we anticipate giving 2 awards. So these are grants that support ideas with potential for high impact, but are untested and have little or no preliminary data to successfully compete for funding from other sources. It allows investigators to test out new theories and obtain data needed to compete for further peer-reviewed funding. Priority is innovative ideas with the potential to transform the treatment of liver disease. I just want to distinguish this from the Innovation Fund. While the Pilot Awards fund innovative research projects that scientifically test a hypothesis, the Innovation Fund is for new ideas, devices, digital technologies, processes, or methods, such as training curriculum, medical apps, educational tools, or simulators. And those are reviewed by a separate committee. Now, the Pinnacle Award is our largest grant. It supports specifically basic science research at a level of $100,000 for 3 years, totaling $300,000. It's for junior faculty, and we anticipate giving 4 awards, though this past year we were able to give 6 because of generous funding. These provide funding for individuals as they work to attain status as an independent research scientist. They get protected time and research support to really lay the groundwork for future success in federal funding, and keeps young scientists focused on liver-related research. These candidates are often those who are simultaneously applying for KO8 awards. The CTORA is what was previously known as the CTORA. We wanted to specifically include outcomes research in the title to make clear that those applications are welcome and will be supported through this mechanism. As stated earlier, these are now $100,000 per year, up from a previous $75,000 per year. It's for junior faculty within 5 years of their appointment, and we will be giving 4 awards, one of those dedicated to transplant-related research, as the Career Development Award in Transplantation has now come under this umbrella. So this award ensures significant amount of protected time for new researchers to pursue their careers in academic hepatology, keeps outstanding young scientists in research rather than losing them to purely clinical duties. And as I mentioned, 1 award per year will be reserved for meritorious transplant-related research in memory of the University of Michigan transplant team. So the key changes to the CTORA is the higher funding amount, limited only to junior faculty, as this previously also allowed postdoc applications. And we've increased the number of applications per distinct department. Previously, only 1 application per department was permitted. We've increased that to allow for 2 applications per distinct department, because many departments had very meritorious applicants, but had to kind of choose between them. And now it allows the committee to really choose the best research. Now, again, I've mentioned this already, but I think a lot of people are familiar with the Career Development Award in liver transplantation. So it's just been eliminated as a standalone award, but it's essentially just moved under the CTORA category instead. Importantly, it previously was only $45,000 per year for 2 years. So by moving it over to a CTORA, it also increases the funding level to $100,000 per year for 2 years. Now, the Autoimmune Liver Disease Pilot Research Award was rolled out actually last year. This is a small pilot seed grant of $20,000, can be clinical, translational, or basic research for postdocs to junior faculty within 5 years of their appointment. It's just a small infusion of seed money to encourage exploration in autoimmune liver disease, really meant to encourage early career researchers to focus on this rare disease group, and allows investigators to test out new theories and obtain data needed to compete for further peer-reviewed funding. Now, the biggest changes, perhaps, of all the award mechanisms is to the Advanced Transplant Hepatology Award. Previously, this award provided $60,000 to the institution for salary support and really was meant to build transplant hepatology programs across the country, and it really did achieve that mission. Now, many fellows get their offer and are going to be in a fellowship position irrespective of whether they get this award or not, but it is a significant CV builder. And so the goal here is really to, rather than simply provide salary support for an institution, it's to really invest in the individual. So this is now a 2-year award where, as a fellow, you would get $4,000 to support travel. One of the meetings would be the AASLD, and then any other meeting of your choice. And then once you have your first faculty position, you would get $26,000 in seed money, really, to begin your research. Our hope is that we can provide more of these awards then, and with a goal of 6 to 10. The ideas behind the establishment of this was really to allow for pre-established seed funding for that first faculty appointment, making the fellows more desirable candidates, and really identifies outstanding early career researchers who will be able to successfully compete for future funding. So the new award purpose is really to encourage the academic careers of hepatology trainees. Previously was used to provide salary support. Now it's a 2-year award, as I mentioned, travel while a fellow to attend meetings, and then some seed money as you join a faculty at any institution in North America. And it also is open to fellows who are in the pilot ACGME track. The Afdhal McHutchison Lifer Award is a clinical, translational, or outcomes research award that is $50,000 per year for 2 years. It's open to postdoctoral fellows and clinical research fellows within their 5 years of residency or most recent doctoral degree. And it's really a CTORA-like grant. Funding allows recipients to establish their research career and research track and career trajectory. And importantly for this award, priority is given to international applicants who will be conducting research in North America. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we just recently got a large donation from a private donor to stimulate research to better understand mechanisms of autoimmune hepatitis. So this fund will support one grant application that could be in any of the different award mechanisms, could be a Bridge Award, Pilot Research Award, a CTORA, or a Pinnacle Research Award. And that would be in addition to the numbers of awards that we've mentioned in the previous slides. So in terms of application limits, there are some differences across the different grant mechanisms. You can have one application for training program for an Advanced Transplant Hepatology Award, 2 applications per distinct department for the CTORAs, and there's no restrictions in the other award mechanisms. So how do you get funded? So read instructions carefully. adhere to length. Don't leave any required documents out, but also don't try to add documents that were not requested. They will not be reviewed because we want everybody to have, kind of the same evaluation using the same kind of level of documents that are being submitted. Provide details so reviewers will understand what you mean. It's fine to be, brief if it's kind of common knowledge in the space of hepatology. Refer to relevant literature. Think about your tables and figures. Reviewers should be able to read and understand these. You want to avoid microscopic print. Mentor and supporting letters do count. We really can tell which are really just letters that same mentor has written for every applicant they've ever supported for these mechanisms. So it's important to let your mentor know that it really should be more specific because we're trying to understand that mentee-mentor relationship. Be realistic with your aims. Is it achievable in the award time frame? Is there any kind of backup plan? Are limitations recognized, acknowledged, and strategies to overcome those outlined? Check your grammar and your spelling. Ask your mentor to review your application prior to submission, as grantsmanship is important. So how do we review these grants? It's quite rigorous and emulates the NIH review process. The applications are reviewed by the AASLD Foundation Research Awards Committee, which currently has about 28 members, but likely will be adding new members given the increased numbers of awards that we're offering this year. We will likely need to add some members to our committee, but they're chosen for their expertise and their experience. They're all vetted researchers from around North America, and many are considered the leading scientists in their area of expertise. Applications are first given a cursory review to confirm the completeness of the application package. Committee members are provided the basic application information to identify conflicts of interest. The AASLD Foundation considers the following situations conflicts of interest which would preclude a reviewer from assessing your application. If you're from the same institution as the applicant or the mentor, you are excluded as a reviewer. If you have mentored the applicant for any award in the past 3 years, if you've collaborated with either the mentor or the applicant, and if you have a previous professional relationship with either the mentor or the applicant. Research on the same topic would not be a conflict of interest, would rather be those are the reviewers who are going to be reviewing your application because they actually have expertise on the topic. 2 preliminary reviewers are assigned to your application. As I said, they're based on their areas of expertise and their conflicts of interest. And then if additional expertise is needed to assess particular research topics, we do add in ad hoc members to join the committee to assist in review. The reviewers provide full reviews of their assigned applications, and it's based on scoring criteria for each category, which I will get into in a moment. If there's significant difference in those preliminary scores, so if there is a greater than 3-point difference between the 2 reviewers, we pull in a tertiary reviewer. Again, the goal is to give the applicant the most fair and the most fair assessment that we possibly can. So the NIH scoring scale, it's a 9-point scale, and where 1 is exceptional and 9 is poor and 5 is an average application. The reviewers assign scores in 1-point increments using whole numbers, and we encourage people to take advantage of the full range of 1 to 9. They assign scores to each of the 4 criteria, and I'll go into that in more detail in the upcoming slides. And then we have an overall score for all of the applications. The preliminary reviewers provide their criterion scores in the 4 categories that we'll outline below: the candidate's background and professional potential, the candidate's commitment to a research career, the strength of the research project, and the environment in which they will conduct the project. So in terms of the candidate's background and professional potential, what are we looking for? What is their training and experience in the proposed area of research? Have they had publications, presentations at meetings like DDW or AASLD, awards and honors? Independence, is it appropriate for the award type? Does the experience show progressively greater independence? In terms of a commitment to a research career, clarity of future goals and career plans. Does this candidate show a clear progression in their research trajectory? Does it all make sense? Their career path just kind of lays out in front of us. The strength of the research project, research significance, the potential impact of the project, feasibility of the research approach, clarity and structure of the methodology, and does the research plan address limitations, how setbacks will be addressed. For the environment, is it the right environment that will allow for a successful project? The letter's support should show a strong mentor-mentee relationship. The resources available need to be there to support the candidate's success. Is the candidate's institution strongly invested in the career of that particular applicant? Once we get the preliminary reviews from all of the reviewers, there's an in-person selection meeting similar to NIH study section. Applications with meritorious preliminary scores in a range of 1 to 3.5 are presented for in-person discussion. Any members conflicted with an application must leave the room. Reviewer 1 does the more thorough evaluation of the application and presents their full critique. Reviewer 2 then highlights any additional comments that they might have that could potentially impact the score. And then all non-conflicted committee members are invited to join the discussion, ask questions. Following the discussion, the reviewer 1 and 2 state their final overall scores to establish a scoring range. All non-conflicted reviewers privately submit their overall scores electronically. If somebody wants to go outside of the range, so if the range, for example, is 2 to 4 for a particular application, and somebody wants to give it an 8, they need to provide justification, and they need to let the group know what score they are doing, what score they are giving, and why, because it's out of the range. Any application that is not slated for discussion, a score greater than 3.5, can be rescued for discussion by a non-conflicted committee member. It's important to note that our final scores are confidential. So everybody's in a room and electronically puts in their final scores. Again, if it's in the range, fine. If you're out of the range, you need to justify it. And then everybody puts their final scores in, and nobody knows actually who scored at what. It's all confidential. And they're not informed of who they have selected for funding when the meeting ends. So the list are just kind of rank ordered by the scores, but that is not shared with the reviewers. And that's done really for a reason. That kind of protects reviewers from, if they happen to know somebody and saying, oh, I think you're going to get one because you scored here or there. That just protects everybody. It protects the reviewers from getting into kind of a confidentiality issue. And that with that, I hope we have a number of questions that we can address to get into specifics.
Okay. So the first question is regarding to eligibility. The question is, are intramural postdoctoral fellows at the National Cancer Institute eligible to apply for the Pilot Research Award?
Yes, if you're an investigator at the NIH, you would be eligible to apply for a pilot award.
Okay, our next question is, I hold an award that is not listed as an exclusion on the Pinnacle application. Does that mean that this is allowable?
So the list of exclusions is not all-inclusive. Generally, institutional funding from your own institution will not preclude you, but outside research funding from, say, an AGA award or something could potentially preclude you, especially if you have similar specific aims. The applications cannot be duplicative, and so that can be handled on a case-by-case basis, but the goal is to fund people who don't really have, it's meant to be an award to support a research career for someone who doesn't have significant funding already.
Okay, the next question is actually someone who has already received an AASLD award. They've received a Pinnacle Award, and they're wondering if they can apply for a pilot research award.
Yes.
And
A pilot award is really for a high-risk innovative idea, and your other funding status has no bearing on that.
So the next question is, do we need to be a member of AASLD before applying for the award?
I mean, you should be, because I think you have to be to get it. But Julia, do you know what the?
So the answer to that is actually yes. For all of our awards, you do need to be a member of AASLD prior to applying for the award. So next is a question regarding the Advanced Transplant Hepatology Award. And they are asking if they applied during their Advanced Transplant Hepatology Fellowship, would we already need to have a faculty appointment offered? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Julia, finish the question.
So I did actually read that wrong. It is a current Advanced Hepatology Fellow who is asking if they already have to be have a faculty appointment offer by the time they apply to be eligible for the award.
No, but this award, you usually apply for this, the way this award is set up is just like the previous way when you applied for an Advanced Transplant Hepatology Fellow award. Usually you're in the final year of your GI fellowship, right? And then you're applying because that travel funding and previously the salary support funding would actually kick in during your Transplant Hepatology Fellowship Award. So that would be year one of the award, in this case, where it would be the travel funding. So if you're already an Advanced Hepatology Fellow, then this award would not be applicable. So it's for those who are going into an Advanced Transplant Hepatology Fellowship. They would apply before they get to wherever they're going to do their Advanced Hepatology Fellowship. During that year of fellowship, they would get the travel, $4,000, money for the AASLD meeting, as well as meetings of their choice. And then you obviously won't know where you're necessarily going to be faculty. So that $26,000 is kind of held by the foundation. Once you get your faculty appointment, whether it be at the same institution that you did your fellowship, but maybe not, it could be someplace else, then that $26,000 becomes your seed money to do your research wherever you end up getting that faculty appointment. So it's understood that you wouldn't know that at the time when you're applying for this. If you go into private practice or something like that, then you don't get the money at all. So I think, I hope I made that, I hope that's clear.
So the next question is, if you receive an AASLD award, namely the Pinnacle Award, and the funds are provided, and then you receive an NIH award, such as the R01, after the AASLD funding has started, will the AASLD funds be canceled, rescinded, or will they continue?
So generally, if it's early on, it would be rescinded, but if you're towards the end of the Pinnacle, then oftentimes it's you know, kind of allowed to continue. And Julie, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Nope, I think you got it. The other thing that we do look for is making sure that the projects don't overlap so much that you wouldn't be able to meet the requirements of the Pinnacle while you're meeting the requirements of the R01.
Right, so if that's actually an important point, so I'll restate that. If your R01 has basically the same specific aims as your Pinnacle and you get the R01, you have to give back the Pinnacle, because we would want to fund somebody else and kind of move those funds to somebody else to get their research career going. And if they're completely different, if the specific aims are completely different, then it depends on, like Julia said, you know, how much time are you putting on that application while also trying to complete the specific aims of your Pinnacle. And a lot of that will depend on where exactly you are in the Pinnacle, year 3 versus year 1. And so those will be handled on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, we have a question about the Pilot Research Award, and it is a current GI fellow who is wondering if they would be eligible to apply for the award as a postdoc, or does this only apply to junior faculty?
No, the pilot award is open to all levels, so postdoc to associate professor.
We have another question that asks if applicants from outside the United States can apply for AASLD Foundation Awards.
Only if the research is going to be conducted in North America. So that's where the LIFER award is applicable. So if a foreign fellow wanted to come and do research in a lab in the United States, they would be very competitive for the LIFER award.
Okay, so another question we get quite a bit is, can my mentor be at a different institution?
Obviously, it's ideal if they're at the same institution, but it's not necessary. It's just that you have to clearly describe kind of how that relationship will work. You know, what will be the cadence of the meetings? How will that mentor-mentee relationship work? And it's ideal then to have a secondary mentor at the institution that you're at.
What is the...
Sometimes people move institutions. You know, some people move mid, and so that's understandable. And so, it's fine, and generally that's not something that will impact your application.
So we have an attendee that's wondering what the success rate of the AASLD Foundation Awards are.
So we generally fund about 30 to 40% of our meritorious applications. So those defined as a score of 3.5 or less, we generally can fund 30 to 40% of them.
Okay, so we have an attendee asking that in the application, it details that the applicant cannot hold or have held any K. Does a training K-12 fall in this category?
A K-12 would be considered similar to a K-08. You mean for the CTORA award, and Julia, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you have a K award, then you wouldn't be eligible for the CTORA. And Julia, just correct me on that if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's...
No, that's correct. So we have another attendee that's asking which awards in particular are open to current liver fellows.
To current liver fellows, you would be considered anything from, so postdoc, any of the postdoc awards, the pilot award. So I think if you go to the slide, so the Autoimmune Liver Disease Pilot Research Award, the Pilot Research Award, the LIFER Award would all be open to you. And slide 13 kind of shows at what level of training you are. If you just look downward, then it would kind of let you know which research awards you could apply for.
And the chart that Dr. Bansal is referring to is also on the AASLD Foundation website. If you go to aasldfnd.org/awards, the chart's right there for if attendees want to take a look at it. So the next question is regarding the Afdhal McHutchison LIFER Award. They are wondering if an applicant is considered international if they have a degree from a North American institution.
If they have a degree, you mean if they are currently a fellow or postdoc outside of the United States, then, and they were going to come to do their research in the United States, then they would be an applicant from, they would be, you know, that's what the nature of the award is, actually looking to fund that type of applicant. Where you did your training years before that would not have any bearing.
So an attendee would like to know what if they receive the Pilot Research Award or the LIFER Award, what happens if they get a K during the award?
So the pilot's just a small one-year award, and it's not likely to have any, it's probably different than what the K is. So that wouldn't be something that they would have to give back, because the pilot award doesn't matter what other funding you have. What was the other award that they were wondering about? The pilot or
the lifer?
The lifer award. Julia, do you know the lifer award? I think they would have to, if they got a K, they'd have to give the lifer award back.
I believe you would be correct due to the nature of that award.
Right. And we could double check that specific one. And if you just get the email that can't, we'll just double check and let them know for sure.
Okay.
It's a smaller award amount, which is why I want to be sure to give the right guidance.
So we have one attendee that's asking if the mentor, if the mentor needs to be an AASLD member for the Pilot Research Award.
The mentor always has to be an AASLD member, correct, Julia?
For that one. So for that one, that's actually the Pilot Research Award is new, and for that one, we actually do not require that the mentor needs to be an AASLD member, and that is actually the only award where the mentor.
Okay.
Yes, so that's the only award where the mentor does not need to be a member of AASLD.
And that's an award where you might not even have a mentor.
Correct. So we have another attendee that asked for how many applications do we generally receive for these awards?
So last year we got, what, 90 applications?
Yes, and it's generally, and of course this is prior to the establishment of the Pilot and Bridge Awards. So for all of the other categories, we generally receive between 90 and 100 awards. And as Dr. Bansal mentioned before, generally the success rate is about 34% of the meritorious awards, or 30 to 40% of the meritorious awards are funded at the end.
We expect that we're going to get more this year because of all the new grant mechanisms.
And so if anyone has any other questions, there are a couple questions that are highly specific. So if you have asked one of those questions, we will get in touch with you following the webinar. We do have a clarification on the previous one of the previous questions. So to clarify the previous K-12 question, this is specific for the Pinnacle Award. A K-12 during fellowship training to subsidize the second year of fellowship that occurs before a faculty position, would that preclude the application for the Pinnacle Award? So it's a K-12 to fund the second year of fellowship prior to the faculty position. Do you feel that would still make someone ineligible for the Pinnacle?
No, I don't think that would.
Okay.
But that as applicants certainly can get, we can get into the specifics of that. But no, if it was just to fund a fellowship, that's not really a research award.
All right, so we have a person asking about resubmission, which is, does AASLD Foundation encourage resubmission with the original application being revised following the reviewer's comments?
Absolutely. And in fact, this year we had a couple of applications that came in and we looked to see how well they addressed the critiques. So something that's new that we've done over the past couple of years, previously when an application was not funded, you really didn't get any comments or feedback. And we decided that it would really be helpful for applicants to get the critiques from the review committee so that they could improve their application, whether it be for resubmission to us or improve their application for submission to the NIH. So when you do a resubmission, you do kind of a response to critique, and it is evaluated as how well did you respond to the critiques of the previous reviewers, and when possible, we give you the same reviewers. So reviewers are on the committee for a couple of years, And so we try to give it back if it's a resubmission to the same reviewers that reviewed it on the first go around to really give it its maximal chance. You don't get like new critiques now that somebody else is coming up with.
Okay, so we do, I just want to clarify the earlier question regarding how many applications were received, and it was just, to clarify that 90 is across all award mechanisms. So that's all the different award categories combined in previous years, rather than 90 for each category. A follow-up question is, in general, is the intent for the CTORA to be a bridge to a K award and the Pinnacle to be a bridge to an R award?
Well, it does depend on kind of where that particular applicant is. I would say that oftentimes people are applying for CTORAs at the same time that they might be thinking about submitting a K award, and so often that is the case. I would say that for Pinnacles, we also do see that people are applying for Pinnacles at the same time of the KOA. Occasionally, it is people who are a little bit further advanced and also applying simultaneously for an R01.
So an applicant would like to know if they do resubmit their application for an award, can they change their aims when they resubmit, or do they have to use the same aims as the first time around?
No, I think you can change it because you may have gotten additional preliminary data, or you may be even responding to the critiques of the first reviewers. So as long as you're justifying, we're not comparing the application that you submitted before directly, although we do have it available. But I think in your response to critique, you would outline the rationale for changing the specific aims, and it may be very logical and may be responding to the critique.
Okay, so it looks like we have answered all of the questions. Oh, never mind, we have one that just came in. And actually, I will respond to that person. We've already addressed that. It's another question about receiving a K award during your CTORA period. If anyone else has any additional questions, we'll go ahead and give you a minute or so to submit those so we can see if we can get Dr. Bansal to answer them for you tonight.
Right. So if you get a KO8 award, you have to give back the CTORA, or you have to choose which one you want, just to make that clear for everybody. Because really, the goal of the foundation is to fund as many people as we can, to keep as many young scientists in the field, of hepatology research. And so we want to spread the wealth as much as possible. And so that funding can then try to get somebody else to the point where they can get their KO8.
So we do have a person that they are planning to resubmit, but they did not originally receive their feedback. So just let that person know that if you go ahead and email awards@aasld.org, we will go ahead and make sure that you do receive an electronic version of your feedback. But their follow-up question to that is it necessary to discuss the reapplication generally in the application?
First of all, we only started sharing the critiques more recently. So if you had submitted an award like 3 years ago, there may not have been the extensive critiques that we now do. So just keep that in mind when you email Julia, and she looks for that. What was the second question then, Julia?
So I guess that they're wondering how they should discuss the reapplication in their or the previous application when they resubmit.
Usually kind of there's you're going to just highlight the key parts of the critique that you're addressing in a kind of an introductory page, and then you'll go on and write your application just just highlighting the key features that you've changed in response to critique.
Okay, so we'll give it about 30 more seconds for any additional questions to come in. I did see another one come in that is very, very specific, so we will get your information and connect with you offline. But Dr. Bansal, I don't know if there's anything sort of you want to, closing words or words of wisdom that you want to share while we wait.
So we will be at the AASLD Foundation, with a lot of opportunities to interact with members of our committee directly for some of those specific questions. I'll be speaking at the Career Development Workshop, as well as we'll be at the trainee reception on Friday. There'll be a table that's set up for also questions to be answered. So lots of opportunities to get questions answered that haven't been. We'll just clarify a couple questions that haven't come up for us before that we just want to make sure we're correct on, and we'll share those with the people who asked the question. And certainly we'll have that clarified by the liver meeting as well. And I think that, it's definitely worth applying. I think that from a percentage standpoint, these are, they're very competitive, no question about it, but they're really good opportunities to get funding as you bridge towards NIH funding. And so I encourage everybody to apply. You can't get it if you don't apply, and you get very good comments even if you're not funded, and make yourself more competitive for the next time you come in with an application, whether it again be to us or to another agency.
Okay, so it looks like that's all the questions we have for today. So we'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. If you have any additional questions, please either email them to awards@asld.org, or you can enter them in a short post-webinar survey that we'll be emailing to all attendees. We really appreciate your feedback, and this really helps us create better resources for grant seekers in the future. Thank you again, and everyone have a great day.